This is how cattle are loaded in the truck to be distributed to south, east, and west. Same people we are feeding, same people insulting us. You easily forget that we build Lagos with the pyramid of groundnut.
Is it true that the North feeds Nigeria and build Lagos with groundnut pyramids? Hello and what's up guys? So I was just browsing through some videos online when I came across something surprising that you definitely need to hear. But before I share these videos, let me read some of what this our northern brother says. Before oil was discovered in Nigeria, the country's major source of income was agriculture. Peanuts, bagged and ready for export, were stacked in pyramids, mostly in Kano, in the northern region of Nigeria. In case you don't know, groundnut pyramids were structures made from sacks of groundnuts. A northern Nigerian man claimed that the north has the highest yam and cattle markets in all of Africa. He said the same people feeding Nigeria are the ones being insulted. He went further to say that 85% of agricultural products in Nigeria come from the north. According to him, money from the groundnut pyramids in the north was used to build Lagos. He also claimed that before oil was discovered, revenue from northern agriculture was used to build all the refineries in Nigeria. Guys, I'll let you watch this video for yourself so you can see exactly what I am talking about. Also, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Take a look guys and remember to share your thoughts after watching.
Welcome to Yobe State, Nigeria. This is the biggest cattle market in the whole Africa. Join me and take it all. I am El Sadiq Diksa. This is how cattle are loaded in the truck to be distributed to south, east, and west, and other part of African countries. Same people we are feeding, same people insulting us. If you divide the country today, what is your gain? You easily forget that 85% of agricultural products are produced in the north. You easily forget that we build Lagos with the pyramid of groundnut. We are not against the tax refund, but here in Nigeria they remove subsidy. What do we get in return? We are talking about the future, not the present.
And now you're saying, oh yeah, that money is ours, that money is ours. No, it isn't. Lagos is what it is today thanks to the Nigeria's Commonwealth. All the infrastructures were built by Nigerian Commonwealth. The ports, the bridges, the everything. If anybody asks you, you must pay. So people need to be sensible. There is this thing they call in the old Zulu adage, Ubuntu. You are who you are because of me. In the north, if I am the president or if I'm the governor in any state, we are richer than the south.
In what sense?
In many ways. Three things. The north, agriculture, if we concentrate on three things: agriculture, solid minerals, and solar, we'll be done. All the water, all the hydroelectric power stations are in the north. Mambila. The northeast is complaining there's no power. When
Mambila nothing is happening.
Yeah.
There are a lot of lamentation.
Yeah, who was there before? If we had developed Mambila, we wouldn't be in this mess. The north is richer than the south. We need agriculture.
Untapped deposits.
Absolutely. We have the land for agriculture. We can feed not only Nigeria, but the whole of West Africa. Secure our people, let them go back to the farm. Number two, and do not abandon agriculture and go and run after this oil that is fluctuating all over the place. Solid minerals, we have it all. Why is the fight in Zamfara and all over this northwestern state? Because of gold.
Largely.
Yeah, a lot of it. And then previously in the last government, the National Security Advisor will come and say, oh, mining has been banned, no fly zone, no follow-up. Thirdly, and people should ask, where has been the gold of Zamfara? Where is the gold? We have the sun. We can power not only the region, but we can power the whole of the country.
This video does not in any way ridicule or undermine the agricultural contribution of Northern Nigeria to the entire country called Nigeria. However, we must begin to speak the truth. We must rewrite the wrongs. we must write the actual narrative so that generations coming after us will know the truth and spread the truth. You see, that statement that goes north, feed Nigeria, that is Northern Nigeria, feed Nigeria, suggests that only Northern Nigeria is into agriculture. Only Northern Nigeria is producing the food that the entire country called Nigeria is eating, is consuming. Now, let's delve into some reports so that we get to know whether all the categories of agricultural products is only North that is producing them, be it textiles, be it furniture, be it whatever you want to call them, be it crops, whichever. Let's delve into them and let's see for ourselves.
So the following agricultural products are produced in commercial quantities and are also exported from southern Nigeria. Now, number one, we have crops. Under crops, we have palm products like your palm kernel, your palm oil, and then your palm wine, right? Number two, we have cocoa. Number three, we have rubber. Number four, cassava product like your gari, your tapioca, and so on and so forth. And we have rice, okay, in Ebonyi, Anambra, and Lagos, and as well as other places in the south. And then you're looking at number six, yam and yam product. You have your yam flour and so on and so forth. They want to export for global market. And then vegetables, tomatoes, okra, pepper, and so on and so forth. Your ugu leaf, water leaf, and so many uziza leaves, so many other leaves. And you have plantain and bananas. Okay, very particular to the south. You don't find them elsewhere. Again, you have pineapples and citrus fruits, right? And then you have kola nuts, livestock and aquatic products, poultry products, your eggs, your broilers, and so many of them. And then you have fish and seafood. Wow, particularly in the south region, the Niger Delta, they are highly rich in fish farming and then seafood. And the excluded one, or was it an omission? I don't know. But there is this one, bush meat. Okay, we are rich in bush meat and so on and so forth. Now we have snails, right? We have snails, goat and cattle farming, and so on and so forth. Now forestry and cash crops, timber and wood products. Yes, large wood in the south for furniture and so on and so forth. Now you have charcoal. Of course, where you have timber, you definitely have charcoal. Now processed and packaged goods, you have spices, honey and bee products, so pure organic honey and beeswax, and so many of them. And then you have herbs and medicinal plants, viticola, moringa, and other natural remedies, so many of them. Now southern Nigeria actually exports these products, these agricultural products, to Europe, Asia, America, even to other parts of Africa. I'd like to stress here that not all of them are mentioned here. Okay, so let's look at Northern Nigeria now. Now the following agricultural products are cultivated in Northern Nigeria and they're also exported to other parts of the world from Northern Nigeria. Number one, you have crops. Under crops, you're having grains and cereals, maize, millet, sorghum, rice, especially in Kano, Jigawa, and Kebbi. You have legumes, beans, groundnuts, and so on and so forth. You have tubers, sweet potatoes, and Irish potatoes. You have vegetables, tomatoes. You have them, onions, garlic, pepper, definitely, particularly in the north. And then fruits, watermelon, definitely north. Mangoes are not only in the north, they're also in the south. Guava, same thing. Dates, specifically in the north. Now, cotton, definitely in the north. Sugarcane in the north, though you have little few from south as well. You have sesame seeds, and as well as number 9, soybeans. You have hibiscus for zobo and so on and so forth. Now, livestock and animals. I'd like you to know that they didn't mention all of them. Okay, they didn't mention all of them. North is not have more vegetables than those on the fruit than those on the just mentioned. Now, you have livestock and animals products. Right, number 1, cattle. 2, goats and sheep. 3, poultry. 4, camels. 5, honey and beeswax. And number 6, fish, aquaculture and so forth, smoked fish and on and on. Now under cash crops and export, you have gum arabic, shea butter, leather and hides, spices like your ginger and so on and so forth, neem seeds, okay, yeah, neem seeds. And then you have forestry and natural products, charcoal, timber. Then under processed and packaged product, you have groundnut oil, tomato paste, sesame oil, herbal remedies, okay. Now, Northern Nigeria exports these things to other parts of the world like Europe, Americas, Asia, Middle East, as well as other parts of Africa.
Now, to add to the report that you just read, let me remind you that some of the agricultural product or produce consumed in Northern Nigeria are not consumed in the south. That is not the type of food that we eat. For instance, if you go to southern Nigeria, the popular food you get to see everywhere is swallow. That is gari, when you bake gari with hot water and soup. But if you go to northern Nigeria, they eat tuwo and soup. We don't eat the tuwo. So there are some agricultural products that are really common in the north and you can't find them in the south. There are some that are specifically meant for the south alone, like your plantain, your red oil. You don't find them anywhere in the north that they are producing them. So anywhere you find such commodities in Nigeria, you just know that they are coming from the south. Another misconception that Nigerians are getting is the production of rice. If you ask any ordinary Nigerian now, they will point north, that north is not is the one producing rice. Of course, they produce rice. I'm not saying they don't. Please don't misquote me. They specifically produce rice, beans, in large quantity, tomatoes, watermelon, name them. All those agricultural products are, located in northern Nigeria. But when you talk about rice, if you try to, research, you realize that the largest commercial rice mill in Nigeria is in Lagos and happens to be the third, if I'm not mistaken, the third in the entire world. In Lagos. Another one, Ebonyi rice mill, very large, is in Ebonyi state. Another one is in Anambra state, and so many others in the south. So that's your mindset. Listen, the conclusion of it all is that North have its own specific agricultural product that they produce. South have their own specific agricultural product that they produce. It's more or less like a synergy. Nobody can single-handedly boast that yes, we feed the country. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? You can continue your wrong narrative that North feed Nigeria. Not until they'll tell you to prove it, then your mouth will seal. Till then, you go chi-chi-chi, you go chon-chon-chon. You know they pray, and not go feel fooled now. You've been fooled. You've been deceived. Nigeria is a nation built on lies. In case you're wondering why I said what I said, let me start by telling you that crude oil was not discovered in 1956 in Oloibiri, current-day Bayelsa State. As a matter of fact, the first multinational company to start oil exploration in this part of the world, later known as Nigeria, wasn't even owned by Britain. It was called the Nigerian Bitumen Corporation. It is just bearing a Nigerian name. It wasn't owned by any Nigerian. It was owned by the Germans. That's Germany. They started drilling oil in Nigeria in 1908. Somewhere around Ogun and Everons. And they were moving down south. The First World War stopped the Germans from further exploration of crude oil in Nigeria. But they later resumed somewhere in 1920 down to 1930s. And they now discovered it in commercial quantity in Oloibiri. That was 1956. But prior to that discovery, there have been other discoveries in other separate areas. I'd like us to read an article together. The British colonial government granted the license to the Nigerian Bitumen Corporation in 1908 for crude oil exploration in Nigeria. At the time, Nigeria was under British colonial rule, and the government controlled access to natural resources, including issuing permits and licenses for exploration. Shell began its operations in Nigeria in 1937 as Shell the Asi Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria, a partnership between Royal Dutch Shell and British Petroleum. This marked the start of modern oil exploration in the country. Shell the Asi was granted an exploration license covering the entire territory of Nigeria. Let's stop here. So you see that as early as in the 1930s, Britain was already drilling crude oil in Nigeria. You see, to my northern Muslims and Fulanis and those northerners who have that mindset and mentality that your groundnut pyramid was used to develop southern Nigeria, including north and every part of Nigeria, I'd like us to read an article together. Let's have it. By the 15th century, Portuguese explorers began trading palm oil with coastal West African communities. The trade grew significantly in the 19th century during the transatlantic slave trade and later during British colonization as industrial demand for palm oil surged in Europe. 2. Flourishing period 1850s to 1930s. Palm oil became one of Nigeria's top export commodities during the colonial era, especially after the abolition of the slave trade. It was used for soap, candles, and industrial lubricants. By the early 20th century, Nigeria was the world's largest producer of palm oil and palm kernels, accounting for about 45% of global output. The peak continued into the 1950s and 1960s, with palm products contributing significantly to Nigeria's economy until crude oil became dominant in the 1970s. In the 1800s, the Royal Niger Company, a British trading company, was involved in the export of several key goods from Nigeria, including number 1, palm oil. This was the primary export and a highly sought after commodity in Europe for use in industrial lubricants, soaps, and candles during the Industrial Revolution. 2. Palm kernels. These were also exported for use in producing oils and other industrial applications. Other items included agricultural produce like rubber and some ivory, though palm oil and Kano were the dominant exports. Let's stop here. They are not true. I still have more to show you. Let's look at rubber, how rubber was used as well. Rubber, origins of rubber cultivation. Rubber cultivation began in Nigeria in the late 19th century. The British introduced the rubber tree, Harvey brasiliensis, to West Africa to meet the growing global demand for natural rubber. Initially, white rubber was harvested from native plants, but plantation farming became more prevalent in the early 20th century. Now, the flourishing period of rubber. From 1920s to 1960s, rubber production gained momentum during the colonial period as plantations were established, especially in southern Nigeria. Example given, Edo and Delta regions. Rubber became a significant export crop, providing material for industrial products like tires during and after World War II. By the 1950s, Nigeria was a major rubber producer, exporting large volumes to Europe and North America. So that you won't say that my attention is just on the south, let's look at what the Yoruba people did to develop their land as well. Cocoa farming in Nigeria began on a commercial scale in the late 19th century and gained prominence in the early 20th century. It became a major export and commodity during the colonial period, particularly from the 1910s onward, and reached its peak in the 1940s and 1950s. Timeline of cocoa farming in Nigeria: late 1800, 1910s, 1920 to 1940s, 1940s to 1950s. I don't want to bore you with those many write-ups alongside. Let's move ahead. Revenue from cocoa. While exact figures are challenging to pinpoint due to limited historical data, estimates provide some perspective. By the 1940s, cocoa accounted for over 90% of Nigeria's total agricultural export. What? In the 1950s, cocoa generated significant foreign exchange for Nigeria, contributing about 30 million euros annually, equivalent to billions in today's currency when adjusted for inflation. The revenue from cocoa exports was instrumental in financing infrastructure projects, education, healthcare, and the development of urban centers in western Nigeria. Cocoa wealth also helped fund the first Nigerian skyscraper, the Cocoa House in Ibadan, built in 1965 as a symbol of the region's economic success. Do you know that there are 13 refineries in Nigeria today as of 2024? Now, do you also know that out of these 13 refineries, 4 are owned by the government? Then the other 9 are owned by private individuals and organizations. Now, you see these northern Muslims and the Hausa Fulanis. If you come across them, please school them. When they begin to disseminate their lies, let them know the fact and the truth and provide them with evidence. You see, the last video that I made it clear how southern Nigeria was developed during the colonial period, because they've been screaming that the income from northern agricultural products and the groundnut pyramid, that these income were used to develop southern Nigeria. And I was able to discredit all of those false claims in my previous video. Some of them saw that, oh, these guys have been able to discredit our false claim. They came around again. They said, no. This time around, they were very specific. They said, no. The income from their groundnut pyramid and agricultural products in the north were used to build the refineries in the southern part of the country. So, today we are going to see how the federal government funded the building of the refineries that are in southern Nigeria, and then how those private individuals, funded their own refineries.
Port Harcourt Refinery, the old one, built in 1965. Funding source: funded directly by the federal government of Nigeria through public revenues generated from crude oil sales and taxes. Number 2, Port Harcourt Refinery, the new one, built in 1989. Funding source: funded by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, using revenues generated from crude oil exports. Number 3, Warri Refinery, 1978. Funding source: built with direct funding from the Nigerian government under the military regime of General Olusegun Obasanjo. Construction was financed using crude oil revenues. as the government benefited from the 1970s oil boom, contracted to Snam Proghetti, Italy, for engineering and construction. 4. Kaduna Refinery, 1980. Funding source, funded by the Nigerian government, primarily using revenues from crude oil sales. I am sure you are listening to this, right? Kaduna Refinery. We don't know what refinery they do for Kaduna, but tonight we will continue. It was built from crude oil sales during the late 1970s oil boom. The same Northerners, they shout, say they use groundnut pyramid to build refinery for Southern Nigeria. You see the hypocrisy and the lies when their parents tell them. Let's continue. Built to cater to the northern region of Nigeria, reducing transportation costs for refined products. Contracted to Shiyoda Corporation Japan for construction and engineering. This is a clear indication that they were shouting, screaming for their own refinery, just the way they are shouting for their own, because Nigeria Delta has Nigeria Delta oil producing, how is it called, NDDC. They are now shouting for their own Northeast, whatever, development commission. This is a clear indication that this thing happened then. They were also shouting, screaming for their own refinery. So it was clearly written here, built to cater to the northern region of Nigeria. Nobody said they get oil. Let's continue. How the government was able to fund these projects. We'll see how they fund them now. Let's see whether there was any additional income from agricultural produce like groundnut pyramid or their cotton that they produce. Let's go. Number 1, oil revenue. Nigeria experienced an oil boom in the 1970s, generating significant foreign exchange from crude oil exports. These revenues were channeled into infrastructure projects, including refinery construction. 2. Public budget allocations. The government used annual budgetary allocations to fund large-scale infrastructure projects like refinery. 3. International partnerships. Collaboration with foreign engineering firms, e.g., Shell British Petroleum, Snam Proghetti, and Shiyoda, brought in technical expertise and funding through joint ventures. 4. No external loans. We will not go to, so they did not borrow anything. Dangote Refinery, Lagos State, built in 2023. Watersmith Modular Refinery, Imo State, Phase 1, built 2020. Nigeria Delta Petroleum Resources Refinery, Rivers State, built 2011. Dupont Midstream Refinery, Edo State, built 2022. Atlantic Modular Refinery, Bayelsa State, Phase 1, built 2020. Azike Refinery, Bayelsa State, under construction, expected completion in 2024. Ogbele Modular Refinery, Rivers State, built 2011. Now, planned or under development refineries. Boa Group Refinery, Akwa Ibom State, construction starts 2021, expected completion in 2024. Eleme Petrochemical Refinery, Rivers State, focuses on petrochemical production alongside refinery. Now, summary of funding patterns for these private-owned modular refineries in Nigeria. Number 1, equity. 2, loans, partnerships, collaborations with international firms for technology, engineering, and additional funding.
Now you've seen it yourself. Now to my Hausa Fulanis and the northern Muslims who have this mentality, I'm not generalizing, those of you with this mentality that the proceed from your agricultural product cotton and groundnut pyramid was used to develop, so that's a fat lie. It never happened. Go and cross-check it. That's a fat lie. And I like you to know that from time immemorial, the southern part of the country has been economically and financially buoyant. They've been flourishing when it comes to wealth. When it comes to wealth, we've been flourishing. As a matter of fact, I've come across documents, just that I don't want to, some of those things we incur hatred and on and on. I've come across documents that have actually indicted North not to have the financial capacity to run as a region, even during the colonial era. But all of those things, I've forgotten about them. They were unable to operate until the booming of groundnut and everything. And after the groundnut business died down, till date, we've not seen anything. But thank God, you guys have good mineral resources that you can make use of. Don't let anybody, be it a politician or imam or even your parents, preach one derogatory message to you and say that they use our food, this one build Nigeria, we are the one feeding Nigeria, blah 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 blah.